Hello, you're very welcome to another JMac podcast. I'm John Mann. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgarich.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on Orgarich.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. Today, I'm joined by London Senior Football Manager Michael Maher to talk about the great year that just happened for the London Senior Football lads and the last couple of years. So, really looking forward to chatting to Michael today. This chat's been brewing for a long time, so we finally nailed it down, Michael.
Good man, John. Thanks for having us on. How are you keeping?
Good, sir. Good. The sun is shining down in beautiful Cavan. I think you thought I was in Manhattan before this, did you?
Yes, that's a serious background. We all need one of them.
Oh, I wish I was in Manhattan. Costa del Cavan today, so I'll knock you out. How was life, my man? Obviously, a great game against Waterford at the weekend. Just about coming up short in extra time, but you're happy enough, no doubt?
Yeah, look, real tough one to digest. I didn't get a wink sleep Saturday night thinking about it.
Sligo, not Waterford. Sligo. Yeah. Sorry, Michael.
No worries. Didn't get a wink sleep Saturday night after the game. Mixed emotions, huge pride on one side and kind of what might have been on the other side. But look, all in all, we've been on the road 6-7 months with a brand new squad. And if anyone had said kind of this would be the outcome of all your games at the end of the season before we kicked the ball, I think everyone would have kind of bitten our arm off to be where we are now. So, yeah, look, massive pride. The players have been brilliant. Backroom have been phenomenal. County Board have supported us very, very well. But hopefully the group can kick on next year because we've laid some serious foundations this year.
100%, Michael, 100%. And obviously the game, it was 3-15 to London's 2-16, and that was an absolutely humdinger of a game, Michael, and we were really saying off air the game probably should have been on GAA Go. We had a lot of dead rubber fixtures at the weekend with the Ulster final, the Leinster final, Connacht final, and probably Ulster final was the only game to stand out. So obviously, I don't know how it wasn't because obviously there would have been a lot of Irish being interested in both teams there. So, but Michael, an absolutely unbelievable game and not much media attention about it.
Savage game. I think they missed a trick not having it at least on GAA Go. I think there should have been at least 1 or 2 games minimum on for every round, and certainly look on national TV because the people that would have got great interest out of that game compared to the clipping that Kerry gave Limerick, for instance, or Dublin gave Kildare, I think it'd have been tenfold. People would have switched on and been engaged to those games, not just ours. Like there were a number of close games from Manor. Longford was close, Leitrim, Antrim was close. Carlo obviously got a great result against Tip. So look, the competition, I think there were a lot of doubts at the beginning, but I said from the outset it was going to be a tremendous competition because teams are playing teams of their own standing and believe that they can go in and win games. And look, people would have been probably saying we were stupid to believe we'd get a result against Sligo after the drubbing they gave us in the league. But we had massive faith in the group that we were going to put up a performance. And look, we should have won the game. 7 minutes added time were played, 5 were indicated. That was a real tough pill to swallow. They scored with the last kick of the game to go to extra time. We had 2 blacks. We were down to 13 at one stage for a couple of minutes in normal time. One of the blacks then carried over into extra time. Then we had 2 reds in extra time, missed a penalty. It was really a case of what might have been. But look, a great game. Hats off to Sligo. Alan Riley kicked an absolute screamer of a score to get them level in normal time. We were well set up defensively as well. We shut off all the spaces. And look, he had to take the shot on, otherwise they probably wouldn't have got it off. So he's kicked it from just around the 45 and landed a brilliant score. But real case of what might have been for us.
Yeah, Michael, 100%. And yeah, that's it. That's kind of like, look, it's absolutely brilliant to kind of be running up that score and kind of being in competitive games, running teams close. Obviously, you ran ourselves close in the league as well, and it's a very good league kind of campaign. So it's just so good to see kind of London football on the rise, you know, competing at that level, running teams close, obviously like Sligo, Cavan, ourselves in the league, and like Saturday or Sunday's an absolute blueprint of that, Michael, that, you know, steps are being taken, getting the right people involved. I know my Cavan man Lorcan Mulvey's involved with you, so it's amazing what happens, Michael, when, you know, you put the foot to the pedal.
Absolutely, but look, whatever management put in place is only going to be successful if the players really knuckle down. And look, we had a good sized squad. We had 35, 36 with a good number of English born lads in there. Some of them now kind of are focusing on the London junior team in that competition in the All Britain. They won the All Britain competition at the weekend. And look, we had a few lads drop off the squad. And I guess, look, that's football. But the 26, 27, 28 that were there until the very end were committed all the way throughout. They knuckled down really hard, and look, we really drove things on the pitch this year. The lads were in savage shape, like savage shape. I'd say we were probably shading the fitness levels at the weekend, which is testament to the boys and the work they put in. And look, it's not easy with London. Like we lose a couple of weeks at a real crucial stage in preparations over Christmas, when majority of the squad go home to Ireland. And teams in Ireland would that's when they'd be at their strongest, because all the players that may be based in Dublin or Belfast or Limerick or Galway for work, they'd have all been back with the home counties for that 2-week period training away. So we didn't train collectively, I think, from December the 19th until January the 2nd or 3rd. And that was a massive period of time to lose for us. So it was even more testament to the lads and the management team that we were able to be ready for the league. And look, we developed, even though the result, we started with the 3 wins and then ended with the 4 defeats. The performances towards the back end of the league were very, very good. Like we played Cavan and Tip, the two that went up. In the last 2 games, we took Cavan to a point. I was saying to you earlier there, like we came into the Cavan game on the back of a 18, 19 point defeat against Sligo the week before. So confidence might have been a little bit low, but we all attributed that to a bad day at the office. We tried to maybe advance things on a little bit too far for that game, because we felt it was a free shot, if you want, over in Sligo, and they were racking up massive scores. So we felt the only way to get at them was to kind of be real front foot, and look, it went against us that day. We reverted to type against Cavan and nearly took them, very nearly took them. And then against Tip, we put in a massive performance as well. We gave a few lads their debuts that day as well, ran them very close. Leitrim, obviously, in the Championship, it wasn't a 4-point game, it was a 1-point game. If anything, they hit us on the counter-attack with seconds to go, and we launched everyone forward. But in the last 5 or 6 minutes of that game, we had 6 shots in a row from good areas, just didn't execute them well, didn't get over the line. And then the weekend, so look, our last 4 performances, the 2 Championship and the 2 promoted teams from the league, were highly positive. Even though the results say we didn't win the game, the performances were massive and great stepping stones for the future. But that's all they are. Unless the group sticks together, they'll only be a stepping stone, and we'll still be on stepping stones next year. So that group has to stay together. The group has to stay together, and I'd have massive belief that they could drive things forward next year, and have massive belief that they could go and put up a performance in every single league game again.
Yeah, I suppose keeping the group together, like, and I know obviously like a lot of counties, and like the current trend is, Michael, like a lot of lads are probably, going away travelling, not committing to the game. And I know me and you had a conversation last year, but keeping lads about, and obviously in London it can be quite difficult because lads aren't probably there long term. Maybe in some cases there might be some cases they aren't, Michael. So it is absolutely essential that you do kind of keep lads about, keep lads committed, and by God, make a big push next year, Michael, because promotion could definitely be on the cards.
It's a big word, John. A big word, but you have to be ambitious. 90% of that group has to stick together, though, because we obviously started from scratch. You obviously spend your first couple of weeks getting the fitness levels to where you need them to be able to perform at inter-county level. And then obviously, look, we had to bed in a game plan that we favoured, a second, a third game plan to be able to flip and kind of change the way we were playing within games. So we had a lot of work to do, and a lot of that groundwork has been done. It's now about finessing things, really improving the detail to what we do. But that can only happen, like I say, if the group does stick together. And look, there was a really good atmosphere after the game. I guess after Championship defeats, usually things would be very downbeat, but you have to take a reality pill. Like, we hadn't played games for 2 years. And we've made huge strides. And look, the group were saying the same words. They're all saying the right things. They want to stick together. They intend to be around next year. But look, you just never know. They're young men. They've got careers ahead of them. And look, who's to say a lad shouldn't take an opportunity back in his home county if one comes along? They're in London for work, ultimately, probably because they couldn't find work at home. If you lose them lads, look, it would just be going back to base again and kind of starting again and blooding new guys. Obviously, we'd hope to pull through another few London-born lads, and the great thing about them is that they'll be consistent. They'd be there kind of year on year. But there's a hell of a squad there, John. It's just the hope over the next few months that they'll be together, and that kind of there isn't a call from the kind of the home club or people see what they've done for the county this year, and then try and pull them back to Ireland. That's what you have to hope.
Fingers crossed, Michael. It's probably a waiting game more than anything, but fingers crossed. I suppose, tell me about the league campaign, obviously this year for the London senior footballers. In fairness, Michael, it was great to have all the games back in the league, because it was a very shortened year last year. It just wasn't really what we were used to. I know the London footballers or London senior lads didn't get to take part last year, but this year they did. The games are back. It was brilliant to see from all accounts, and obviously we referred at the start, these played ourselves over in Ruislip. So the league campaign, Michael, as a whole, obviously up and down. I suppose he's definitely did have a push for promotion again, and he's run a lot of top teams close. So overall, happy enough with the league campaign this year?
Very happy, apart from the Sligo game. And like I say, I think as a management, we shouldered the blame for that one more than anything else. The first 3 games that we got massive results. Like I said, kind of the Carlo game epitomised the work that we'd done in pre-season, because we started off the game like we wanted to, and then obviously we found ourselves behind, and we had to flip the way we were playing midway into the second half, and the lads did it to a T, and kind of we got over the line. Waterford came next, then the Leitrim game. Then we had Wexford in London, and we just didn't click that day. We should have won the game on the chances we had. We just didn't click. And I think if we were at where we are now, playing Wexford, we'd have won that game. We'd have been going into Sligo on 8 points, and we probably wouldn't have been in the position that we found ourselves in, kind of having to really attack the game. We could have probably been very, very secure and kind of looked to attack in the last 10 minutes if we were still within the game. So I think the Wexford game, I think, was a turning point in terms of the promotion push. When we lost that, we were kind of forced to go for it against Sligo. And then look, the last 2 games were free shots. And the Cavan game, we were very, very good after the first 20 minutes. We came into our own and ran them right to the wire. Probably not good for your heart, but for the people in Ruislip, it was a very exciting finish. And then look, we put up a great display against Tip, where we gave a number of lads their debut. So we were really pleased with the league campaign, and it bodes really well for the future.
Yeah, no, 100%, Michael. And obviously, kind of like, the games throughout the league campaign, and obviously like playing the likes of Sligo, Tip, and kind of Cavan, who kind of have got very kind of strong in the last couple of years, Michael. Like when you start kind of putting up to them, and like, and maybe bar the Sligo game, and the rest of the games were very kind of good kind of standard performance. Like when the lads go out, it put in a big performance. So many hours of preparation goes into this, Michael. How proud does it make you feel? Because obviously, like, Jesus Christ, I know the season's over for you now, but it is basically a full-time job, Michael.
I'm incredibly proud, and look, we've a small backroom. There's 7 or 8 of us that do absolutely everything, and that's including like our team doctors who'd work remotely. So like we spend a lot of time between us doing as much work as we can to give the players as much detail as possible going into the games. So like we're a real tight knit squad, and I think look that helps us as well. It would always be good to have another pair of hands here or there, but I think the group respond to how we set things up. And look, we're blessed that we had a group this year that were really, really determined to empty the tank and give absolutely everything they could in terms of their application, their preparation to training, games, doing their bits of video work, and kind of really looking at the whole thing rather than just going from session to session or session to game. There was a fierce kind of application from everyone in the group.
The games just obviously did run close and nearly get over the line in the league, Michael. How important really is kind of results and performances like that for London football this year and the years going ahead, Mike? Because obviously, like when you're seeing the likes, well, obviously when you run us close and we only beat us by a point in Ruislip, and maybe Ruislip could be a bit of a dragon's den for London now for the years ahead, Michael. Obviously, it makes great strides for London football for the future. Definitely.
Look, and my hope is it inspires the young people that are in London that they want to get up and play at that level. But look, it's hugely important here that we have the stepping stones in place, like our under-15s are preparing for the failure at the minute. The 17s eventually should be getting into county competitions in Ireland. I'd like to see an under-20 team formed and then just bridge that gap bit by bit all the way up the junior team and then the senior team. But it's a big jump between underage football, senior club football, and then senior club football to county football. Now, we had a few London-born lads in training with us this year, and they're massive talents. But they're not ready yet to play senior into county football. But the year with the London juniors and playing 5 or 6 games with them, we'll bring them on leaps and bounds, and then hopefully they'll come back next year, and they'll be kind of ready to take that next step. It's a big step up, and I guess what London's not had before was kind of that gradual process for them to develop, whereas now there is, and I think the performances this year will it will attract any player that we approach to become part of the process. It will attract them to say, do you know what, there's a team here that can go and win games, whereas in the past maybe players said, that's a big commitment, be giving up them weekends away from Saturday morning till Sunday night when you don't really have a chance. Like, there is a huge opportunity now for players that play for London to say, do you know what, we can win each and every game we go out if we're performing well.
Yeah, I suppose, like, you'll obviously tell me kind of about maybe training and the standards like that you want to kind of set in within them training, because obviously I was watching the off the ball interviews you're doing with maybe Ashley and O'Reilly and the high intensity, and I suppose getting lads to buy in. So what's the interest levels have they been there this year? Obviously, you know, you didn't get to play much football the last 2 years, so like, are lads chomping at the bit? Is there competition for places, and is there a real grow now to put on the London jersey?
Definitely. Look, we had a real good sized panel in at the start. Obviously, look, we had to make some tough decisions on players going into the league, but we were absolutely adamant we needed a big enough panel training with us early on in the year to make sure training was at the level you need it to be intensity wise. So we give a number of lads an opportunity to come out and see where they were at. We had to cut a few, and then look, a few stepped away. They just couldn't stick with the kind of level of commitment that's required. And look, when you're playing county football, it can't be half-assed commitment. It has to be all in or nothing. Yeah. So like, our lads they'd be in the gym on a Monday night, a small bit of gym work pre-session on a Tuesday night, and then we were on the pitch on a Tuesday and Thursday. If we travelled at the weekend, if we had a home game, we'd have been pitch on the Tuesday and the Friday, and then obviously if we travelled at the weekend, it'd be Saturday, Sunday. So like on an away game week, lads would be committing to London on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 5 out of 7 days, which is a phenomenal amount of time to dedicate. And that's why we said if we're going to do this, you have to do it properly. You have to commit. You have to give your absolute all.
And hence the results, hence the good performances.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we're flexible with how we work. Lads that weren't living close to kind of our gym base, they would have been doing the gym work remotely. We wouldn't be asking lads to travel extensive distances to do a 45-minute gym session. That's just counterproductive. But we made sure we had some accountability among the group, and look, like you say, the performances and the results, they spoke for themselves. And look, make no bones about it, there's still more to get out. There's still definitely more to get out of the group. It was a great starting point this year, and if we're all back together next year, there's definitely areas for improvement. Like, I don't think you ever stop learning or evolving or developing when you're in any sport at a high level. So I'd be massively positive about the future. But look, it's a huge commitment. I guess the weekend just passed. The flights were a nightmare. After the draw was made, we knew the flights were going to be a difficult one going to Knock. There was no way you could fly into Dublin and then do that drive across to Sligo like on the day of that match. So there was a flight that would have been ideal. It was an afternoon flight a late morning out of Gatwick into Knock, but there was only so many seats on that, so we had to book a good few at Stansted, and then we had to book some from Luton. And then the lads out of Stansted were flying at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. So I said there was no way that them boys could be out of bed at 4:30 ready to play Sligo that night. So some of them lads had to stay over in Stansted Airport on Friday night. Logistically, it was a tough one. I drove over because at first we were hoping to get as many on that Gatwick flight, and I said, right, get the players on that flight. I'll drive the gear over. Look, it just kind of epitomised what London's about. You have to go above and beyond. You have to be flexible.
Yeah, have to do that extra bit. Yeah,
you have to be willing to give up more time than probably necessary. And when you look at that, that's kind of what drives them performances, because lads are saying, right, well, we're not doing this just for a fucking laugh here. Like, we're going to give everything. And look, I guess it plays into our hands as well that extra time they have to give and the commitment they have to give to play for London probably comes out in their performances as well.
No, 100%, Michael. It's great to see. And I suppose, kind of talk to me about maybe like the structure of the league this year, and like don't get me wrong, I'd say you're like a child of Christmas with the amount of games you could play, and week in, week out, really not a whole pile of breaks. So did the London lads enjoy that? Did you enjoy that? Like the routine of it, basically every weekend. And obviously, Michael, it's great to kind of be pitting yourself against some pretty, like, it was a very competitive league this year. Like, let's not get away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the league is the best competition there is, and has been for a long time. And now, obviously, the Touting Cup, I think I came out very early and said I was a huge supporter of it. And a lot of people said it won't work. And you only need to see now Pat Spillane, who's at the other end of the scale, saying, do you know what, the Charlton Cup does work. Of course it will work. Teams want to play games where they genuinely believe they can perform.
Well, I like hearing it from you. I don't like hearing it from Pat Spillane. I think he just wants to stay relevant, Mr. Maher. Don't worry.
But like, yes, I'm all for playing. If we got the opportunity to play a Division 1 team every now and again, and you can certainly take some learnings from that. But no player pulls on a shirt going into a game just happy to play a game. Every sportsman I've ever met wants to win. They want to win games of football. And that's why the league is brilliant. And teams are in the leagues for a reason. And look, even Cavan, as good as they are, and the players that they've got and the quality they've got, they fell into Division 4 for a reason, because they hadn't been ultra consistent in the leagues over the last number of years. And I guess, look, they didn't dance their way out. Teams made it difficult for them no more than ourselves. But their quality did shine through in the end. And the hope is that as a group that they can obviously kick on and get themselves back up the leagues and then be pushing for higher end in the championship. But same with Tipperary, very, very good team. But look at the weekend, they lost to Carlo in the Towton Cup. So yes, they were very consistent in Division 4, but they're in Division 4 because they're not a high-end Division 3, Division 2 team as yet. But you develop as a team playing teams of your own level. And when you become too good for that, you do win the league. You push up a league, and when you can gradually improve, your results will stand and count for themselves. So look, that's where we're at. We're a solid Division 4 team now. Can we push on next year? Please God.
Well, you can't go down, Michael. That's one thing I'll give you.
That's it. Exactly.
Like ourselves, we couldn't go down this year if we did have one of them years. And obviously, Michael, that's probably the elephant in the room at the minute. I suppose we can touch on to structure now near the end in a couple of minutes. But there is kind of talk about the league being the best competition, and we're kind of talking about the provincials being fairly dead at the minute, and I think the weekend really proves that, Michael. But the format of the league, would you like maybe something like that to be brought into the championship? Maybe a senior, like an intermediate, junior, or what's your kind of take on all that?
I think the way it is now, I think having the Sam Maguire and the Towton Cup is ideal.
Happy out, happy out.
You're rewarded if you win the Towton Cup this year. If you prove yourself to be the best team in that competition this year, you're rewarded because you're automatically into Sam for next year. If you finish obviously in your provincial final as a Division 3 or 4 team, you'll be going into Sam Maguire. And obviously, if you get promoted out of Division 3, you're into Sam Maguire. I think there's enough chances for teams who find themselves in the bottom 16, if they are genuinely in there because of a blip, because of one bad result that might have gone against them and caused them to fall into Division 3, for instance. Look, ultimately, that's what we're talking. You're talking about the teams who fall out of Division 2 or at the top of Division 3. And I guess for Maher were the biggest example this year. They were a real hard luck story. They had obviously a point against, I think, Westmeath disallowed, which probably cost them promotion. But Kieran Donnelly, we went over and played for Maher in a challenge there 3 weeks ago. And their manager, Kieran, hats off, massive respect for him. He's done a good job there. But he came straight and said, the Towton Cup is a great competition. It's where we're at. It's what we're going to build for. And look, I had a great chat to him that night, and I heard his interview after the Tyrone game. If anyone was going to be sour about being in the Towton Cup, it would have been a team like that. But I guess you see the professionalism of them and the manner of their players, and they're approaching that competition with all guns blazing as if they're going to win it. So I don't think the structure next year could have any complaints, really. I don't think any structure will ever be perfect, but I think the one they've got in place for next year, it gives every team a chance. And look, for a team like us next year, you're in a group of 4. Had that been our first game and we lost by 2 points, rather than it all being over for 7 or 8 months again, you've got another 2 games in the 4 groups of 4 to come. So we would have no doubt been going into training, bouncing this Tuesday night, ready for the next game the following week. And look, I'd have great faith that structure will give teams a massive improvement in terms of what they can do developing their team.
Yeah, no, I'm supposed to just touch on it because obviously I've seen it off the ball video. Lachlan was on, and the Longford senior football manager, I think it was yesterday, was just kind of vocal about his views about the Leinster Championship being fairly dead. And obviously Longford season's over now. Like a couple of years ago, probably it was extended, obviously due to the structure being changed now, Michael, I suppose. But we probably are looking at provincials that really are kind of going down like the Swanee, really, for want of a better word, Michael. But at the minute, you're pretty happy with the structure at the minute.
Yeah, look, for look, for London, we get a round robin in the provincial. So like, every year we play a different opponent. We play everyone except New York on a rotation. And look, that's good. Like, and there's when you're involved with London, like you get your game against Mayo, Galway, Roscommon come around every 5 years. There's your day out against them big teams. And look, if the team is good enough to compete with the big guns, then great. You progress in the provincial series. And like I said, if you make the provincial final, then that would have been your pathway into Sam Maguire. So I still think there's merit in the provincial series. And look, if you're not good enough, and look, we lost in the first round, and we were very, very hard done by. We'd have been up against Galway in the next round, and look, probably before a ball would have been kicked in that game, we'd have probably been on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah,
we'd have given it everything, but it would have been a very, very difficult game to get anything out of. And I just wonder, had we got that result against Leitrim and then taken an 18-20 point defeat off of Galway, would our kind of atmosphere in the group have been the same and had the same buzz as it was going into that Sligo game of the weekend? I don't know. It's swings and roundabouts, John. But I don't think the provincials will ever fully go. I know where Billy O'Loughlin's coming from, because the purists will always want a provincial competition. But at least now there is a competition to go in and play against teams of your own standing that you can go and win. Yeah. And Longford had their chance in the weekend, much the same as ourselves. So, look, just have to focus now on next year.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose obviously like there was kind of talk in the last couple of weeks about the PR, the promotion and everything around the Tolland Cup, and I think it was kind of very much the last minute, and I suppose people kind of love giving out and complaining, Michael, but what was your kind of take on maybe the PR around the Tolland Cup, the fixtures around it, the draw, and a lot of people are obviously giving out about it, but judging from you, Michael, listening to you, you were probably just happy to be playing football.
Absolutely. I don't know, John, could they have done much more, because obviously there was a push on the promotion for the provincial series. They did. They got all the captains in Croke Park for a day. Obviously, our captain and New York's captain couldn't go over, but they sent a photographer over to Ruislip. There was a video call done with Owen Walsh from Croke Park. Look, I think they did their fair bit, John. I also think, look, there was a bit of unfair criticism chucked the way of Croke Park, because the documentation that came out in October, November clearly said on there that there was going to be this north and south split, and that it wouldn't be going to 4 groups of 4 until next year. Yeah. Had people read the documentation, they'd have known it. But they just took a chance to kind of bash the competition, and that then knocks on more negative press. Like, it was in black and white, John. This year was going to be knockout. It would be 4 groups of 4 from next year, and it was in black and white that there was the north and south. So if that wasn't passed down to the managers or the boards, I don't know whose fault that is, but to me, the competition was very clear, the structure it was going to be this year. We were in no uncertain terms about how it was going to be. The only thing we didn't know was what section we were going to go into in the competition. And look, we found out when we found out, and we knuckled down.
Yeah, definitely, Michael, definitely. And I suppose touching on to the championship, he's obviously played Leitrim in the Connacht Championship. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Leitrim in the Connacht Championship. So what was your kind of take on, I suppose, that game? And obviously, you're definitely not shy of each other. You've played each other a couple of times this year, and obviously Andy Moran is managing Leitrim this year. So that's obviously great to see, and kind of great to share the sideline against him and share ideas, or even look at ideas. But that experience alone in the championship, Michael?
Very much the same as the weekend, John. Like, it finished a 4-point game, but it was very much a 1-point game. They got the goal in the last kick of the game when we'd thrown the kitchen sink at them, and they just broke up the other end of the pitch and tapped the ball in with the last play of the game. Look, we took them to the wire. I guess the last 5 minutes of the game, we had 6 chances, one after the other. 2 dropped short, 3 wide, and 1 off the post from memory. And had one of them gone over and we drew level, I think we'd have taken them. Like, we had them on the ropes. We'd had them penned in. We were turning their kick-outs over. It was a great performance, but we didn't get the scores when we needed them. We started the game very, very brightly. We had a goal chance in the first 6 or 7 minutes. Had we taken that, I think we'd have settled a lot quicker in the game than we did. It took us a while to settle. We hit 4 unanswered points going into half-time, came out after half-time again, and Leitrim got on top of us. And I think that was the winning of the game, in fairness to them. They came out that little bit sharper and more confident after half-time. And it gave us a little bit of a mountain to climb. But look, in true London fashion this year, we came back, we hit them for 2 goals. We hit 2 unanswered. And that's when we had them really on the ropes. So we were fierce unlucky to win that game. It was an incredible performance. But hats off to Leitrim. They showed the mettle, but it was much a game of we literally kicked the chances away.
Yeah, and I suppose like I've kind of talked to people before about them kind of chances and like to win games and stuff. What sometimes, Michael, do you boil that down to? Because obviously maybe is it nerves, is it the pressure of the situation? I know obviously he's run so many teams close this year. Like what would you maybe boil that down to? Because I'm presuming he's doing so much shooting related drills in training. Sometimes it's just nerves, just maybe lack of composure. It's hard to know.
Mixture of stuff, John. Look, it's no secret. We don't have a football pitch that we train on over here. We train on rugby pitches.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And with the provincial series being a lot earlier this year, usually the county team we'd get 3 or 4 weeks training at Ruislip, kind of with the daylight hours being pushed out after the clocks go back at the end of March. We'd have had 3 or 4 weeks at Ruislip to prepare for that game. But this year, like on the Tuesday night before the Leitrim game, we were on the rugby training pitch, like 4 days out from a provincial game. That's tough. And look, one of the players is my own clubman, Sean. He hit a shot from near the sideline in Ruislip, off the outside of his boot, and it fell short. Now, at training on the Tuesday night, we'd done an exercise shooting from different angles, and where he was kind of on a touchline on that rugby pitch, it was sailing over the bar. But the pitch is near 20 metres narrower. And whilst we do all we can to kind of stretch the pitch as wide as possible with cones on the outside players, I'm a big believer in kind of visualisation, and players kind of would be carrying in what they're doing in training onto the pitch. So he might have seen himself near the white line inside the 21. This is my shooting range, because he's been training over and over again. Whereas had we maybe trained on a football pitch just a couple more sessions and really got the players visualising what their scoring range was, I think we'd probably have nicked them a couple of chances. Sounds like an excuse, but it's a tiny thing. Like would you see a soccer team? Would you see a soccer team training on a hockey pitch and being able to? It's true. Would you see? Train on a hockey pitch and say, look, we can get our shape nailed down on here, get our phases of play right, get our kickouts right. Probably not. Like when we do a kick out phase, for example, at training, we cone out the Gaelic football line. So we'd be coning out a 20, a 45, a 65. And when we're practicing long range kickouts, by the time you've won the breaking ball, you're nearly on top of the other rugby goal. So you actually can't complete the phase as you'd like to complete it. So look, my one hope for London is
get a training ground.
Years, there's a training pitch. It's not easy. It's going to be very, very costly. But if they could just get a training facility with floodlights, it would 100% bring London football and hurling on to the next level. And look, the board back us as best they possibly can within the limitations they find themselves in. They backed us as best they possibly can. But look, like I said, if you're a professional football team training on a hockey pitch, you wouldn't be able to go out and perform at the weekend like you'd like to. And we're very much the same as a Gaelic football team. We're training on a rugby pitch. Is there more improvement to be made if we were on full time on a Gaelic pitch? Absolutely. So that I think that was one small thing that probably cost us in the end, John. But look, the last couple of weeks where we've been training on a football pitch, put it this way, against Leitrim, John, we missed something like 16 chances. Against Sligo, we only hit 3 wides and 1 short. We were clinical in our chance taking. So look, training on a pitch the last few weeks has made massive changes to our game.
God, it kind of makes you think, Michael, if that stuff was there earlier. God, it's what could have been. It's what could have been. Jeez, it'd be brilliant if you could obviously nail down the pitch. And I suppose, Michael, how enjoyable all is it for you? Because obviously we see about the commitment that is brought to everyone's life, and obviously if you've kids, if you have a full-time job, it is very, very stressful. It's probably on your mind the whole time. You're checking your phone if lads are doing this X, Y, and Z, Michael. So I'm presuming you're enjoying it all.
I'm absolutely loving it, John. Look, it's a wonderful journey. It's a great experience, a great group of lads, and we've had serious crack. And like, I came back yesterday on the boat, and I was borderline depressed, thinking we're not training tonight. And I texted the lads saying, I can't believe we're not training. We said last Thursday in Ruislip, we're going to be back here next Tuesday night. And I think everyone believed it. I looked in the whites of the lads' eyes, and I saw a belief there. And it was kind of sad that we weren't there last night and training together, because you form a bond with lads. And when you're all doing something for the same reason, there's a genuine bond there. So it takes over your life. It absolutely takes over your life, especially kind of in the management position of the two lads, Joe and Lorcan, who put in savage amounts of work as well. James O'Dowd, our sports scientist in S&C, Toby, the physio, and Phil, the kitman. Kind of, we're the men that would be with the group full time, with two doctors, then Sean and Rory, who'd be kind of in the background, with Sean Murphy, who's done stats for us. But the six of us that are there full time, the work that they put in, John, is sensational. And look, I'd spend hours and hours looking at videos of our own game, videos of opposition, trying to see where we're going wrong, where we can improve, what we're doing well to keep driving forward, and areas where I feel we could hurt the opposition or have to respect the opposition. And it does take over your life. And today was the first day I thought, shit, what do I do now?
What do I do with myself? Yeah.
What do I do now? But look, we're back to the club now with the ladies and men, and look forward to the club season. But look, it's been a wonderful journey. I've genuinely enjoyed every minute. There's been some tough moments, but look, hopefully now get a little bit of downtime over the next few weeks to digest how it really did all go, reflect on what we could have maybe done better, and what went really well, and look, hopefully that group really does kick on next year. And
are you sticking about? Will continue on?
Have to see, John. They need to speak to the county board and see their thoughts and see what's going to happen going forward next year. But the key is the players, John. It doesn't matter who walks in that change room with the lads next year. If the players stick together, someone's got a hell of a team on their hands.
That sounded very much parking glass there, Michael.
Oh, look,
I hope not.
I've loved being involved, but
yeah.
I've got to have that conversation with the board.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
I never count the money before it's in the bank. I'd love to be involved with that group again next year. They've been savage good to work with. But look, the season's just finished, so it's a time for reflection for everyone.
Definitely. I suppose we did kind of talk about this last year, but like, what to make of like the commitment for the players, and probably like a general question for even the players around Ireland as well. Like, you know, the nights a week and everything that goes into it, Michael. And obviously, you have London lads coming serious hours to get to training, go home from training, go to matches, and absolutely everything, Michael. Like, and I suppose there is obviously massive calls for like maybe to that being maybe dumbed down a bit, and you know, if lads are enjoying it, they should kind of stick about. But your kind of thoughts on the commitment of the game? Like, I suppose if lads want to be there, they want to be there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and John, I don't think there'll never be a curb on teams training like the things that you hear do go on with other teams. Even if Croke Park come out and say this is what you can do, there'll always be a rule bent here or there, I believe. But genuinely, we couldn't ever push the lads to do more than what they're doing now, which is well within the permitted sessions. I know Croke Park extended it to kind of 5 collective sessions. We do a collective gym on a Monday for the lads that are near to Harrow School, and then we do 2 pitch sessions a week, Tuesday and Thursday or Tuesday, Friday.
Manageable, very manageable, yeah.
That is very manageable. Look, it's no more than what top-end club players will be doing. And then we ask them to obviously do a gym session remotely and over the Christmas period to be doing extra bits of work. But we don't train collectively more than 3 times a week. And like I say, that's 1 gym and 2 pitch or 3 pitch sessions during the time of year when there's no games. We'd be training at the weekend as well. So we are in a very manageable position. And look, like I say, with London, John, lads travel savage hours, public transport. A lot of the boys don't have cars, so they're on public transport. So it's even small things like walking from the training pitch back to the tube station. That's 15, 20 minutes there on its own before they're even starting the journey home, John, you know, and then the train and then the walk back home on the other side. There's a lot goes to it. So I think we have to train at the level we train at now. Any less, we wouldn't be competing. Could we train any more collectively? Look, maybe in an ideal world, if we were a bit close together, we'd get another night a week in coming up towards the championship, where you could really do with kind of breaking things down, maybe unit work, have the backs in one night, forwards in another night. But what we're doing now is absolutely necessary, and it's what they need to give, and the players are giving that commitment.
Super stuff, Michael. Obviously, working with Cavan Lorcan Mulvey. Lorcan's obviously had a successful stint with the Cavan senior football team, and he played Butler's Bridge, his club here in Cavan. He was very successful with them as well. So what's it like to work alongside Lorcan, Michael? Lorcan and Joe are the 2 lads, selectors, coaches. I prefer calling them coaches. Look, we all row in together. We design the sessions together.
Look, we've all got our different strengths. Lorcan and Joe have both been, the thing about the two of them lads is they've both been immersed in London club football for a number of years.
Yeah.
And I was very, very keen to get men that had a deep understanding of the game in London, that would know players, but also that players could respect. Like, would the players respect someone that's only been in a year or two? Absolutely not. So those two men have been in London a number of years. Lorcan's been here, I think now, must be coming up 10 years. He played for London in 2013.
Oh, he did. Cavan played them, and he was playing against Cavan. Yeah, round 4 and Croker.
13 was, I think, his first year with the county. He must have been involved in 12, maybe with the club, I'd say. And Joe's been in London, I'd say, close on 20 years at this stage.
Oh God, right, brilliant.
Look, Lorcan's, they're both great coaches, good people. You can bounce ideas off them, and there's implicit trust between the three of them. Look, we've all got club men on the panel, but any confidential conversations that you have to have naturally as a management team, I had great faith in them two men, that it would never leave kind of the four walls of the room that we discussed those conversations in, and there'd be tough decisions you'd have to make on your own clubman at times, and there was never kind of an eyelid batted at them decisions we made. So look, we worked well together. Look, like I said, the whole management team, we're small, but we're very tight knit, and everyone was there for the same reason, to give the players the best possible platform to perform.
Talking about coaches, Michael, and people you'd probably look around, who kind of coaches in Ireland and from further field would you look up to? Because obviously we've seen the great kind of Jim McGuinness, Jim Gavin, probably to name a few, Michael. So would you be kind of looking at any for inspiration?
I think every coach has to have kind of an identity and a belief in what they do. Look, Rory Gallagher has his critics. I think he's phenomenal.
He's brilliant. I'm a big fan. Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal. I was at that game at the weekend, and look, he completely outwitted the Donegal management, I believe.
That was a bit of a middle finger up, because Donegal fans or the Donegal public kind of got rid of him. So yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely. Look, Donegal played Michael Murphy deep out the field. Gallagher probably identified that was going to happen, and he tagged Brendan Rodgers to go out and man mark him, and you just watched the way Rodgers played. Whenever Derry turned over the ball, you could see that Rodgers had been told to go, and there was
Rodgers was brilliant. Play. He was brilliant.
He was outstanding, but it took Michael Murphy completely out of his comfort zone. There was the point, Conor Glass's point. I think the second last point, or even the last point, it might have been, Derry turned over the ball, and you could see Rodgers just went, and he got 10, 15 metres on Murphy.
Yeah.
He drove up the pitch. He got a 21 entry, offloaded to Murphy and over the bar. And you could just see that Gallagher had foreseen that. He said, right, you're on Murphy, and every time we hit the ball, go. And he was taking Murphy further and further back the pitch, where Murphy was out of his comfort zone. And look, had I been Declan Bonner, I'd have probably pitched Murphy up on the left-hand side, the right-hand touchline, anywhere to try and take out the influence that Rodgers was having on that game. But I felt Gallagher got everything absolutely spot on, down to their kickouts, down to their strategy, pushing players up when they were in a patient attack, pushing players up onto the end line to really stretch that Donegal defence. He was outstanding. Look, and you have to take your hat off to him and say he's absolutely at the top of his trade at the moment. But look, even down in Division 4, John, like, they've met some really good guys, and the teams we play against, every team has been well set up. Everyone plays a different way, and you can see that every manager and coaching team has really stamped their mark. So it's no easy task, John, being a county manager, and you take your hat off to anyone who's involved at that level, and obviously say that they're good at what they do, and everyone's got their different ways of doing things.
100%, Michael, 100%. And I suppose a word on the current setup at the minute, Michael, and obviously we're probably, well, I don't know, like it's probably two sides of the coin, because I think during COVID we went so long without games. We should just enjoy what we have. And I know, like, geez, I was doing my preview there Monday night, and the lads just looked like it was just, we were at a morgue or something. Everyone was in just such bad mood talking about the games. And look, the Leinster final, the Munster final, the Connacht final, probably not great games of football, really, Michael. To be fair, I was absolutely intrigued by the Ulster final. I thought the Ulster final was a fantastic game of football. But your thoughts on the current state of affairs?
Look, the Dublin Kildare game, I think Kildare went out a little bit. It reminded me very much of ourselves against Sligo. Like, they should have set up slightly differently to keep in the game, rather than go and take Dublin on toe-to-toe for the first while in that game. Had they kept themselves in the game until the last 15-20 minutes, then that was probably the time to go expansive and see could they get at them. the Kerry Limerick game. I have massive time for Billy Lee. Billy's been very good to kind of me over the last couple of years, and I stayed in good touch with him. He kept me up to date with stuff ever since we played him, and I first kind of met him face to face back in February 2020. But he's done a savage job with Limerick, a savage job. But you just see the golfing class between a newly promoted Division 2 team and top end Division 1. But I think from here on, John, I think we're going to see great games. I really do think we're going to see great games. Look, there's certainly some underdog stories to come. I guess, look, New York are coming in. It's an unknown against Offaly this weekend. I hope they put it up because they're very similar to ourselves. I hope they put it up to Offaly.
I think they will.
Look, I think it's a tough one for Offaly. Like, as if you were John Maher this week, you'd be very much. You could look at the Sligo game, but you just don't know. Did Sligo slightly underperform because they're out their comfort zone out in New York, or New York really pushing that level, kind of a high-end Division 4 team? It will be a tough one for Offaly to predict. But look, in terms of the games going forward, John, I think the qualifiers in the Sam Maguire this weekend, the Towton Cup games, I think you'll see very close games. I think the average point winning margin will drastically come down this weekend. Look, there's always going to be a few imbalances in the provincial. I think Munster, Kerry are that bit ahead, and in Leinster, Dublin that bit ahead. The other two provinces, Connacht is fairly competitive, like
true.
3 teams there, and Ulster is just a savage competition. What a competition to be involved in as a coach or a player! Like every team, I'd say probably 7 of the 9 teams every year can approach that competition and say, "Look, do you know what? We could have a real good run here." I think Antrim have got a little bit of catching up to do there at the moment, but I'm sure they'll come good.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. And obviously, Enda McGinley stepped down from the Antrim job on Monday. I think it was Monday morning. So obviously, that'll be a job that'll need to be filled now. Hopefully, Antrim can get that sorted. Obviously, because Casement Park is on the way as well. So it's exciting time for Antrim, but I think there could be a few retirements there as well. And I suppose, Michael, if you were to make a call maybe for the Tailteann Cup winners and the All Ireland winners.
Okay, All Ireland. I think Tyrone are going to surprise us.
Oh, Washy McConville thinks that too, yeah.
I think Tyrone are going to come back with the bit between their teeth.
Okay.
But Kerry
this Sunday's going to be interesting against Armagh, yeah.
Yeah, if they come out of that game, John, I think they have a massive chance that game will really, if they can get over the line in that game in Armagh, that will really stand to them. And I think we'll see a very, very difficult team to beat. I think Kerry won't be far away. The Tailteann Cup, Christ. I think the winners of Fermanagh Cavan will win it. I think the winners of the Fermanagh Cavan game will win it.
Perfect. But yeah, I think that'll definitely tell a tale. Hopefully we can go to full hog. And I suppose last question, Michael. You've been brilliant with your time. What advice kind of would you give to I suppose a young coach around Ireland trying to make that breakthrough? Maybe get on to a coaching setup or a coaching ticket, Michael. What advice would you give them?
Coach every team possible within your club first, ladies, men, underage, and be creative. Like don't go off books. Books are great. You can learn certain things off videos and books, but challenge yourself. Challenge yourself with a scenario. Say you want to, as a coach, right? You want to work on a shooting exercise tonight, but kind of specify you want to work on creating a shooting opportunity from wide on the touchline, and come up with a drill yourself. Make it as game related as possible. But the other side of it, never ever underestimate the most basic of exercises that refine the core skills of the game, because you could put on the most complicated coaching exercise pattern of play in the world, but if the skill execution is poor, that exercise is going to flop at the first hurdle. So every night in all my sessions, I'll always have an element of skill execution at the very, very beginning of the session before we then look at the theme of the session. But look, my advice to any coach is coach every different kind of team, men's, ladies. I learned a hell of a lot from coaching the ladies team, in terms of how you communicate with players and different mindsets. And look, I had great time coaching underage teams all my life at the club. And I guess I've been lucky, I got the break with the county team at the right time with Kieran Dealey in 2019. That was a great learning curve. And look, I think you really do have to coach at all different levels. You can't do too big of a jump at one time because you might lose your own confidence. But look, never be afraid to be yourself and be as creative as you possibly can be, because it will come out. The enthusiasm that you have as a coach will always reflect in your sessions.
Very, very last question. The future.
For
yourself?
myself, look, I love what I'm doing at the minute. Absolutely love what I'm doing at the minute. I hope to move back to Ireland in the future.
Where are you? Where move back to Ireland? Where are you from again, Michael? Or where? What?
Parents live in Wexford. Dad's a Kilkenny man, so he doesn't say much because he's living with the enemy. Mum's parents are Cork and Kerry.
Brilliant.
But look, I love Ireland. I'd love to be immersed in football or hurling over there. I think long term, I think it's a good way of life.
Okay.
And look, if I did make that move back, then obviously look, I'd have aspirations to be involved with a club back there and see where the future takes me. But for the time being, look, I'm delighted being involved with my club Round Towers here, and I've loved every second of working with the London team this year, and hopefully we push that forward next year.
There we go. Super stuff, Michael. Super stuff. Be great to see you over in Ireland, and we could shoot the breeze and hopefully do maybe one of these podcasts live. It'd be great to catch up with you face to face. But for the time being, it was great seeing video. Michael Maher, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgarech.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on Orgarech.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. Michael Maher, thank you very much.
Good man, John. Take it easy.